Dunn is a listener of ours in Ireland. Where do you live in Ireland?
Dublin.
Dublin, Ireland. And I honestly, Jonathan, I don't really remember the first time that we met, but we apparently met at the Abolish the IRS rally in Washington, D.C. When was that?
June 2 years ago. We both spoke.
And we didn't speak very long. It was just a brief shake your hand and get a picture taken or something. And then the next time we spoke, you called into the show.
Yes, sir.
And I think we spent about 20 minutes, did we not?
Yes.
And you were talking about how much you love America. And you intrigued me. And this is what I love about the world today. Like that letter from Canada that I read last hour from the listener who's like, you know what? This is spreading all over the world. It's not just held in America. It can be held by all of us all around the world. Jonathan was so intriguing to me. I put him in touch with Blaze Radio people, and I said, I think this guy should do a podcast. And now he's doing a podcast that you can hear. It is ready for download at noon on Saturdays. His name is Jonathan Dunn, but he happens to be here from Ireland. And I just wanted to bring him in because we were talking in my office a little while ago, and he's just so refreshing to hear somebody that doesn't hate us. You know what I mean? We've been so beaten up. We're like an abused woman that, you know, we've been so beaten and so abused and told that we're worthless for so long by so many people that when somebody walks in and goes, you know what, you guys are really great, it's shocking to hear.
And when you say us, you don't mean us like in individuals, you mean the country.
No,
right?
I mean the country. Yeah, Americans.
Yeah.
And to hear, you know, it's one thing for some American to say, hey, you know what, we're not that bad. It's something else for a guy who lives across the ocean and looks to us. And I mean, what is it that you see? I mean, tell me the good things first. What is it that you see?
So much. We haven't got enough time to go through every issue, but I ask everyone to, you know, when I talk about America, to close your eyes before, and it's July 1st, 1776. America hasn't been formed. You haven't declared your independence. Think of the acknowledging God. It wasn't done. Think about the rights of the individual. It wasn't done. You were told you live in a box. If your king, your queen, or ever who was the leader of the country was, they defined what was freedom. July 2nd, 1776 happens, and boom, your country declared your independence. Reason number one I love your country is because your founders are great men and they had their priorities straight. You know, you talk about, to Black Lives Matter, for example, the group of the day. They're great at telling you what their grievances is. Your founders had the priorities straight. They said, oh, I got grievances against your king. I got 27 of them and a lot more. But I'm going to tell you what I'm for first. They said, all men are created equal. It sounds so simple, but it's such a revolutionary idea. Your country, from that start, from the minute you declared your independence from that king, you were on a different path.
Okay, so I have to say, let me just say this.
Sure, in Vigora.
There are people that are listening right now that I can guarantee you, there's at least a couple that are like, foreigner. July 2nd, 1770s. It was July 4th, dummy. They don't even know that it was the 2nd. And you said, what is it, 26 or 28 grievances?
27.
27. You know that, Pat, but you're a freak. Did you know that? How many were in the Declaration? Of course
I did.
Okay. You're not a scholar. Who are you? Before you called in, who are you? What do you do?
I've always shared a great love, and I used to write. I used to be in the political process, try to help people, I'd be the person you'd call and say, who's the conservative that you'd elect? Who's the limited government? And I've understood that politics is no longer the answer. We need to win arguments on the ground. Thatcher said, first you win the argument, then you win the election. I'm trying to win the arguments because your nation is in great trouble, but we don't win arguments anymore. We spoke in the green room. How many conservatives do you know can make a principled argument against ethanol? If you can't make the principled argument, make the successful. Is it a success? By any measure of business, it isn't. So my job is to testify to your greatness.
That must also be really hard in Ireland because there can't be a lot of people like you that feel like you, right? I mean, it's Europe. And
we feel alone. You've got
to feel really alone.
You have to feel
over there.
really alone.
I'm by myself. There's a handful of a few friends who get it.
Yeah.
And I'm honored. But the vast majority, no. They just go with the flow. They are defined by their government. So the gay marriage issue, which is, we understand, we approved gay marriage I think it's about 3 or 4 months ago. The whole image of those folks is, well, it's democracy. It's just passed. It's popular. Whereas America is different. It says it's not about what's popular. It's about God-given rights. They're enshrined in your Constitution. So that's another reason you're exceptional. And that's one of the reasons why we need to put America on a shining city on a hill and say to the rest of the world. So I was in New York. Statue of Liberty. I know you'll know this better than I. That's the model of America. Be the shining city. That lady with her torch out firm. It's not about telling the world what to do or telling them or compelling them. It's just showing them. And I think enough people, if we show them, not in a way of this is who you vote for, this is who you need to be as Prime Minister, just show them. Freedom is powerful. I see so many people who don't understand the message of freedom. Karl Marx speaks about freedom. Now, he has a perverted view of it when he speaks about freedom for the bourgeoisie. But he still speaks about freedom. He still uses that word. That's how powerful the message of freedom is. And if we can get that message out, your best days are still ahead of you.
So how do we appear to you from going from Barack Obama to now this political process? What are people thinking about us?
Well, from an Irish point of view, everyone's going, God, I hope Hillary gets elected.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I know. I come from a
is
family...
that because of who she's running against? Or
No, that's because of who she is.
They love her.
Ireland loves Democrats. So if you're a Clinton and now an Obama, or your name is Kennedy, it doesn't matter what your first
Kennedy,
name is.
Yeah, sure.
It's just very liberal, very Democrat, very, very big government.
Okay.
And the characters of the Republicans is very bad. And we need to define that. So let me give you one that America might take advantage of. I don't say I have any labels anymore. I don't believe in labels. But when people would say, oh, you're a Republican, they think they make that you're for big business. Many people today, you see Republicans who actually are for big business, but the people on the street, it's not about big business or big government, it's about free markets. And I think we need to offer that alternative to show the way forward. And it's about the free market and start winning the arguments. Because far too many people equate conservatives, oh, you're just for the millionaires and billionaires. No, we're not. We're for everyone. If you happen to be poor and you make it big, absolutely fantastic. If you're rich and you've made it, it's because you've offered a product and a service and enough people have wanted it. And that's the way to go forward.
We don't protect the billionaires, but we actually, a real conservative protects the little people from the billionaires kicking the door closed. You know, the real conservative says just because they have a lot of money, just because they have a lot of land or intellectual property or whatever it is, they are not the Lord, and I am not the serf. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what a real conservative should do. Not hate the guy who has a lot of money, just to make sure that he is not now controlling things to have everybody else act as his pawn or his subject.
And a real conservative limited government should not even notice if you're rich or poor. They should treat everybody equally. They shouldn't notice your color. They shouldn't notice how much money you're making. Everything can be applied to people equally, and that's really what it's supposed to be about.
So,
can I give you just an example?
Yeah.
Just to think in your mind. 2008, the big crash. Look how banks treat people in America. Look how banks, they pretty much trample all over you. There's no customer services. There's no great service. There's no great pricing. That's a prime example in business to say, there's an opening. There's a USP. We're going to treat people like human beings. We're going to treat people with respect. How many new banks came out of the Great Recession?
No, they closed.
Yeah, but why did no new person come out? Because it's so tight, regulations and legislation. No one wants to get into that minefield, not because they don't think they can offer a service, not because they don't think they have a product. It's because the first thing you'd have to do is not find a building or find staff to serve people or find managers. It's to find some lawyer to say, tell me what I can do. And that's the sad thing.
Yeah, it's just so true. A perfect example of this is the company Prosper here in the United States. Right before the Great Recession hit, Prosper.com launched. And they were a site that essentially crowdsourced loans. So if you had money in your bank, you could put it into Prosper and fund people's individual requests for a loan. What a great idea. And in a time where money got so tight, it was impossible to get loans for the average person.
What happened to them?
Well, the government shut them down, essentially. Now, they wound up finding a way to stick around, and they're still in existence, but it's a totally different model now. But it's just like, at that time, you have $1,000 laying in your bank account. You can go and say, I want to start a bar. I want to start a restaurant. I have all these great recipes from my grandma. I want to start a restaurant. You could read their stories. And you could just be like, oh, well, that sounds like a great idea, and give $1,000 and get interest payments and everything else. But they stopped it. The government stepped in and shut them down all over the place at the time.
So I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I want you to tell me, because right now England is debating whether or not they're going to allow Donald Trump to even come in, which I think is ridiculous. England has become so politically correct. But I want you to talk a little bit about what is the perception of the GOP campaign. Are people paying attention to it? Are they?
A bit.
Okay.
And you get the usual, oh my God, Ted Cruz is Satan. You get that here too, though. So
yes,
Ireland and Europe is not unique.
So Jonathan Dunn is with us. He does a show. He's from Ireland, and he does a podcast from Ireland, from Dublin, and it is ready for download at 12 noon on Saturdays on the Blaze Radio, which is theblaze.com/radio. And we hired him because he loves America and has a perspective from the outside. So tell me what we look like now. How the tea from abroad? I'm not asking for everybody else. You followed the Tea Party movement. You knew what that was all about. And now that we're in this election and we have a chance of winning, how do we look?
There are some concerns I have about the 2016 election. My first one is, ever who your candidate is, whether it be Ted Cruz or Ben Carson, that you'll get them into the White House and all Conservatives will just wipe their hands and think, job done. That's when the job really starts. We need to start winning the arguments and start spreading the message of freedom.
You're concerned that a Ted Cruz wins and we all say,
the
okay,
grassroots.
Well, we finally have our guy in, and then we're not ready for the battle that is ahead.
Yeah, because if you remember the story of Reagan, I love how history is rewritten that the great battle under Reagan was Reagan and Tip O'Neill. No, it wasn't. It was a big battle, but the GOP fought Reagan. And even if you get your guy in for 4 or 8 years, you got to understand the lessons of Reagan. Very Reagan, it's followed up by compassionate conservatism. And you need to really start to work and spread the message and sow those seeds. My second concern is you have a candidate who I'm personally appalled by one of his statements. For any candidate, I don't care whether it's Donald Trump or anyone, if Ted Cruz did the same, I'd say it to you as well. Anyone who thinks they can make America great again, if a politician has that power, America is no longer exceptional. Think of the history of the world. There have been many nations, empires, countries, colonies, many leaders, dictators, kings, queens, presidents, prime ministers. There's only one America. Why? Because America is exceptional because of your people. If you transport that says any politician makes you great, you're just like everyone else. Because then I could take Donald Trump, because he's the one saying it at the minute. Hey, Donald, be president of Ireland. Ireland's all of a sudden exceptional. It doesn't work that way. What makes you exceptional is your people. It's easy to buy in today with the Tea Party and the grassroots. If I wanted to, I could look at the media and the politicians and say, all the issues America faces, you're over. I've been in Texas for over a week now speaking, and the true grassroots get it. From young, from old, from black to white, all the classes, all education levels, they all truly get it. They're starting to understand freedom. We need to put a spotlight on that and say, this is the answer. Your people are the answer. I testify to you before today, and I'm a Christian, so you know what the word testify means. There is no problem facing America today, and you've so many that your people cannot fix. But if you make it about your politicians fixing it, you're done. If your people fix it, you will survive, and I truly believe you'll prosper like never before.
I just love you. I did really. I mean, coming from abroad, having somebody come from abroad.
You're right. That means so much. It does. Yeah, because we've been abused and beaten down like a dog for so long, and so for somebody to come and say it's okay, you're still great. You can still you still represent the things you've always represented, and your people are still good. It's nice to hear from somebody.
Absolutely.
From Ireland.
My role. One of my favorite scripture verses, and I believe this is my role. It's the first chapter of the Gospel of John. He was a man sent by God to testify to God's greatness. I believe my role is to testify to your greatness, your principles. You know, I love how people say, oh, but when I say liberals will attack me and say, oh, but what about this? And your founders are great, but what? They were slaveholders. I'm speaking out 15 years. I've never said America was perfect. America has many flaws, assimilation being one of them. But you're still the greatest country in the world. Because who can argue against those principles?
Jonathan Dunn, you can hear him Saturdays, noon, only on the Blaze Radio from Dublin, Ireland. Jonathan, thank you so much. Back in a minute.